Welcome, Husker fans. Thank you for tuning in to Big Red Radio, the Husker Talk Show. I am your host, Caleb Jennerat. Next to me, as always, is my co-host, Zach Jennerat. Today, we are going to be previewing the Michigan game. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, follow all the follow all the socials in the description down below, and make sure to comment your score prediction as well. It's a big game. It's big game week. Bussin' Bowl, obviously. Is all around social media as you're seeing it. It's a ranked matchup with Nebraska. Has not fared well in recent years past. But Zach, how are you feeling going into the game?
Yeah, I think it's virtually impossible to feel better. As far as the game itself, obviously you could have a really really bad Michigan team. And you could feel pretty good about the win, but not great about the game itself, right? And so
Right.
you got a good Michigan team coming to town, a great environment for Nebraska, a hot Nebraska team. Everything seems to be going into a top matchup, top tier matchup, with a top tier environment as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to get into, before we get into our keys to the game and then our prediction, I want to get into what this game means big picture, for the Matt Rule era, for Dylan Raiola, for Nebraska as a whole this year. I just want to get into those things, and we'll get into our keys to the game. But think about if we win. Nebraska's automatically thrown into the spotlight. Depending on how it looks, obviously, if it's a sloppy win, neither team really looks good. I think it'll temper a little bit, but I mean, both teams look good. Nebraska wins. Nebraska, let's say Nebraska blows them out. I think it's automatically thrown in. Dylan's thrown into the Heisman picture. We would be shooting up some boards. It would be, playoffs on the horizon, no matter what. Just looking at the schedule going forward. A loss, obviously, it depends on how the loss looks. If it's a close loss, I don't think a lot of negative comes from it. You just say, Michigan's a good team, Nebraska's a good team, Michigan just got them on this day. Obviously there's going to come some negative feedback with that as well, with Nebraska being, who they are. Depending on how it looks, as I said, it could just be same old Nebraska, or it could be Nebraska getting there, just not there yet. So I think both ways could have some really big impact on how the college football world views Nebraska. Usually, actually, before I get into that, I'll let you. Do you have any, big picture concerns or outlooks on this game, depending on how it goes?
Yeah, I think it has the opportunity to do a lot of things that you haven't been able to do, but also it has the opportunity to prove everyone that says same old Nebraska correct, right? And so on one end, you have the opportunity to win a close game, beat a ranked opponent, play well against top tier competition. But on the other end, you have the opportunity to go out there and either lose a one-score game that you should win, or get blown out, or just look bad overall, and that would prove everyone else right. So it, like you said, it can either kind of shoot this on an upward trajectory, or maybe plateau it, or even make it go down in some people's eyes.
Yeah, for sure. So what I was going to go into, and what I'm going to go into next, is usually we would do a stat breakdown here, where we would do, how many rushing yards they give up, how many passing yards they get, how their offense looks, how their defense looks, special teams. With both teams, obviously we know with Nebraska, but also with Michigan, there's not really a lot to go off of. Nebraska and Michigan both played a Power 4 team and two nobodies. Jury's still out on both the Power 4 teams, really, that Nebraska and Michigan have played. Everyone thinks Cincinnati was bad when we beat them. If you've been paying attention recently, they're not a bad football team. We still don't know how good of a football team they are. Michigan's played OU. OU really dominated them in that game. A lot of people think OU's really good. Personally, I'm not super sold on OU yet. So yeah, there's definitely certain things you can take away, and things you watch in the game, certain players to look out for. But as a team, it's really hard to pinpoint something that you think is a weakness or even a strength. So it's really difficult to kind of give you a stat breakdown. So usually we would, but there's just not enough to go off of. Do you agree?
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, this could be, where Nebraska stays statistically, but it could be incredibly far off as well.
Right. I mean, Nebraska's truly played two really, really bad teams, and they've done what they should, blown them out, looked really good doing it. But also, Michigan's done the same thing. They looked a little sloppy week one against New Mexico, but then New Mexico comes out, beats UCLA. Obviously, UCLA is not in a great spot, but New Mexico is talented enough, so it looks a little different already. But getting into our keys of the game, we're each going to give 3 keys to the game. We could have the same keys to the game. I haven't heard Zach's. Zach hasn't heard mine, but we'll talk about them as we go. So I'll go first, and then we'll alternate as we go. So my first one is you have to limit explosive plays, which Nebraska has done a really good job of. I think they haven't allowed a pass over 20 yards all season, and that's going to be really important in this game. Force the freshman quarterback, Bryce Underwood, to maintain long drives. Against Oklahoma, they had one drive over 10 plays, and it led to 0 points. The only scores that they have were first play of the second half, 75-yard touchdown run, and then a muff punt by OU, and then a 44-yard pass to open a drive that ended up only equating to a field goal. So Nebraska's done a good job limiting explosive plays, as I said, forcing teams to drive the field, and then forcing a freshman like that to maintain patience. And I think he's going to want to run a little bit. He scrambles a lot, and he's good at doing it, but he also makes some questionable throws. You saw it last week against Central Michigan. One of the best throws he made was, a super dangerous pass, and then he tried to throw that same pass, and it just got picked off. So he's going to make some questionable decisions. I'm not saying he's an impatient player, but he definitely has some tendencies. And their interim coach, Biff Poggi, already said that they're going to put a lot on him. They're going to let him make plays. So he's going to have that pressure going in. It's going to be an environment where, you're going to feel a little bit of pressure. I think he's going to make some mistakes. So you have to limit the explosives. And I think Nebraska can, but I think that's really important because their running back also has home run potential and I think leads the Big Ten in rushing right now. We'll get into it a little bit more, but if you look at down to down what he's doing, a lot of times he's getting stopped right at the line. And then all of a sudden he just breaks a home run play, which he has the capability of doing. So that's not a knock on him at all. But I think if you limit the explosives, you're going to be in a good spot.
Yeah, my first one is actually a matchup, and I think it's a matchup that determines realistically who wins this game. And it's the matchup between Michigan's rush offense and Nebraska's rush defense. Michigan always knows how to run the ball. It's their identity. It has been for as long as they've existed. Nebraska's rush defense has been one that has struggled. Looks like against Cincinnati in the first half, we're getting, gashed up the middle. Then obviously, Akron wasn't great, but still towards the end of the game, or I guess it was the first drive of the second half, Akron, running it down the field, obviously misses a field goal or doesn't get quite there or something, but obviously this is an issue for Nebraska, and then obviously a strength for Michigan as well. And it's not only the running backs, like you mentioned. Bryce Underwood is going to be able to run the ball. We saw that against Brendan Sorsby and how that hurt, or with Brendan Sorsby and how that hurt Nebraska. That's one thing that you can't let Bryce Underwood do, because it's not only completing drives and going down and scoring touchdowns. It's keeping our offense off the field. It's keeping our defense on the field, winning the time of possession. The ways you win these close, tight, I don't know if it's going to be necessarily a defensive battle, but very gritty type game is by keeping the ball and being able to run the ball. And so I think if you're able to stop Michigan run the ball, I think this is a win all day for Nebraska. I think if Michigan's able to run the ball at will, I don't see an avenue really that Nebraska wins outside of some really odd ones.
Yeah, for sure. So my second one is execute in the red zone. Nebraska has had some struggles in the red zone, mainly stalling out like inside the 15-yard line. In between the 20s, Nebraska has been great. No, I don't want to say unstoppable, but just down the field, easy. I think Nebraska is one of the best teams in the country on third down, and they're just chunk play. And then when you get close, it just stalls out for some reason, whether they're trying to get too cute with it, putting Heinrich in there, or they're just trying to do too much. They miss one read and it just falls incomplete. It just feels when the lines get tighter, Nebraska gets tighter. It's going to be a close game. I truly believe it's going to be a close game, and it's those margins that you have to take advantage of between who scores touchdowns in the red zone versus who kicks field goals in the red zone. And I think Nebraska has to score touchdowns in the red zone to win this game. So really dominating in the red zone on both sides of the ball is gonna prove costly in this game.
Yeah, my next one is going to be special teams. And I think this is, again, both sides, right? This isn't just punting and kicking, this is punt returns as well. If you go look at Iowa, right, how Iowa wins football games, Kirk Ferentz was just crowned winningest football coach in Big Ten history. Obviously, percentage-wise and everything, that's not entirely true. But at the end of the day, the reason he's been able to win so many games is not because he's had a great offense. We all know that. It comes down to great defenses, but realistically, when you boil it all down, it's great special teams. It's pinning them deep on punts. It's always having a great punt returner, always having a great kick returner, and knocking in field goals when you absolutely can. Always getting the points. Games like this, special teams is where they are won and lost. So I think, not necessarily a cold Archie, but an Archie that hasn't played 2 games. We've been dialed on the field goals, but I think punt return needs to get a lot better. And I think kick return can get a little better as well. And I think it all needs to kind of come together to be able to win this game.
Yeah. No, and those extra 10 yards that you get on a punt return could be huge in determining field position and a lot in the game. It's kind of been an afterthought because the last 2 games, 10 yards hasn't really mattered. But if you can break a punt return or a kick return and get really good field position, even if you don't score, you pin them and then they get you in good field position. It's just that it's going to be that kind of game. So I think it's really important to get every extra yard that you can and also execute cleanly in field goals and punts as well, like you said. My final one is you have to pressure the QB. Michigan's offensive line is not what it normally is. It's vulnerable. Even last week, Bryce Underwood was under pressure. He was running around a lot. A big reason, and John Butler mentioned it, a big reason why Bryce Underwood had a lot of rushing yards last week is because he was running away from pressure a lot, and he was just a better athlete in that case. I think Nebraska has some pretty good athletes that are going to be able to track him down, but he was running away from pressure, and then he just broke free. And one of his touchdowns was a perfect example. He's rolling out right. The defensive end is right in his face. He's obviously a freak athlete, just turns around and runs away from him. I don't think it's normally going to be that easy against Nebraska. And I think Nebraska really needs, because they haven't gotten a lot of pressure on the quarterback this year. I think only 1 or 2 sacks total have gone Nebraska's way. Nebraska needs to come through with that. And personally, I think John Butler these last 2 weeks has been running a pretty vanilla defense because it hasn't really mattered. Like, you don't need to throw a lot of looks. You don't need to blitz a ton to beat these teams. So I think he's going to come out with some exotic looks. I think he's going to try to confuse Bryce Underwood. But if you just let him sit back there, no matter how confusing the coverage looks, someone's going to pop open. So you have to get pressure on him, make him make quick decisions, and hopefully make a wrong decision, because if Nebraska can force some early turnovers, I feel really good about this.
Yeah, my final one is kind of the opposite of your first one. I think it's make explosive plays on offense.
Yeah.
No doubt we've been able to, like you said, methodically drive the ball, really good on third down, really good first down run, second down run, third down short pass. But it seems like we do that the whole way. And then we get to the red zone, and then it's just that much harder to continue to do that recipe of short play, short play, short play to get all the way into the end zone. It's going to take Dane Key, Neziah Hunter, Ja'Cory Barney. It's going to take these guys to make explosive plays, make a 60-yard catch, make a 40-yard catch, make a 30-yard run to win this game. It's going to take those plays to rejuvenate the crowd, get momentum back on your side, and that is, I think, another key to winning this game.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said for the defense, I kind of agree with the same thing on the offensive side. I think Dana Holgorsen, as good as his offense have looked, I think it's been pretty vanilla so far. And I think, he's a creative guy. He's going to throw some looks that they haven't seen yet. And Michigan runs a ton of zone coverage. They also run man, but they run a lot of zone coverage, force you to make these short throws, which I'm confident Raiola can do. And I'll talk a little bit about that in my prediction as well. But you got anything else before we get to our prediction?
Nope.
All right, so currently Michigan is favored by 2.5 as of Wednesday night when we're recording this. I don't think it's going to move. I think it opened at 2.5 earlier this week. So I think it's just going to stay steady with a total of 45.5, meaning Vegas is predicting, somewhere in like the 24-22, 24-21 win for Michigan. Personally, my prediction, I think Nebraska's opening script is going to be great. I think we score early. As I already said, I think Nebraska, if you can force a mistake, even if Michigan gets the ball first and you can force a mistake, go down and score, I think that's a really big momentum. And if you can go up 2 scores early, I think it's going to be tough for Michigan to come back. They're just not built that way. Asking a freshman quarterback in that environment, and believe me, if Nebraska goes up 2 scores, that environment is going to be insane. It's going to be super loud. It's going to be super hard for Bryce Underwood to do anything, to communicate, do anything. I think Nebraska jumps on early. I think they do go up 2 score, and then I think they settle in to the full-time script. I think Michigan is too much of a talented team to be blown out. I honestly think overall they're probably a more talented team than Nebraska. So as I said, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think the score is going to keep it within distance. I think they're going to score a little bit. I think they're going to break some big plays. I think they're going to, make some plays on defense, make some plays in special teams. But I think, as I said, just the atmosphere and the discipline of Raiola, who's already done this for a year, versus Underwood, who has gone to Norman already. I just don't think that automatically means you're going to be ready for the next one. I think that just means you're expecting a little bit more. But I think Nebraska is going to control the entire game. So my final score prediction is 31-23 Nebraska. Obviously, Nebraska is the underdog, so they cover, and the over hits as well. Did you know, and we'll actually talk about this, a little tease for tomorrow with the Bet the Mortgage, but did you know that this game's total is lower than the Iowa-Rutgers total? I think Iowa-Rutgers is at 46.5, Michigan-Nebraska is at 45.5. That doesn't make any sense to me, but maybe they know something we don't.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think if Nebraska gets the ball first, I think they come out hot. I think the ideal scenarios, it looks like the Colorado game a little bit, where you go get 3 and out, and then you go back down and you score quick. Just kind of sets the tone for the game. I think that's what's going to happen. I also do think you're going to have to play big down the stretch. You're going to have to play it big in third and fourth quarters. The game is not going to be won at halftime. I'll promise you that. It's going to be a full 4-quarter game. I think it's tough. I think it's gritty. I think it's close. But I think Nebraska proves that this year 3 jump with Matt Rule is a legit thing. We've seen it twice. Why not see it a third time? I think it's not necessarily a low-scoring defensive battle, like I said before, a gritty game. I think it's 24-21 Nebraska here. I think maybe Michigan claws back a little bit, but a big defensive play at the end to seal it.
Yeah, and something that a lot of people are talking about going into this game, and something that I'm going to be watching out for, is obviously Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator for Michigan, is known for drawing up blitzes. He's known for blitzing a lot, playing a lot of cover 1, cover 0 type looks. Last year, obviously Dylan Raiola wasn't the best against blitz, and I think that had to do not only with him, and he was a freshman, probably struggling to catch up to the speed, but also I think it had to do a lot with the receivers and not getting any separation. So I'm excited to see if that narrative still proves to be true, or if the receivers with Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter, Ja'Cory Barney, even running backs like Emmett Johnson out of the backfield, I think I'm excited to see if that narrative kind of gets flipped on its head, where I think Dylan could have even, blitzing him could be a plus for Dylan, because he's just going to get open guys. He's going to see it. He's going to see it quick. And I think, honestly, it probably will be, because I think Dylan has matured a lot. I think the offensive line is better. I think the receivers are better than last year. So I think if they come out blitz heavy, I'm excited to see what Dylan can do. But you got anything else before we sign it off?
That's all.
All right, make sure you subscribe to the channel, as I said. Leave a like, hit the bell, follow all the socials in the description. Comment down below your score predictions for this weekend's game. But without further ado, go Big Red.